at Camp David, expected to start any moment now. But one expected participant we're particularly interested in is Todd Blanche, President Trump's pick to be Attorney General, of course. Blanche's confirmation is effectively stuck right now, held up by two outspoken Republican senators with concerns about Trump's nearly $1.8 billion so-called anti-weaponization fund and a free pass for Trump and his family on past, present, and possibly future tax audits. One of the holdouts, Senator John Cornyn, met with Blanche last night and told MS Now while the meeting was constructive, they're not there yet. But the friction inside the president's party does not stop there. We're also following controversy surrounding GOP Congressman Max Miller. His wife, Emily Moreno, the daughter of Senator Bernie Moreno, has now filed a restraining order against Miller. In court filings, she alleges Miller had physical and verbal altercations with her attorney. The two are in the middle of a custody battle, and in those filings, Moreno makes frightening allegations. She says Miller threw hot water on her, held a gun to her head, and physically abused their 2-year-old daughter. Miller denies any wrongdoing. Let's bring in MS Now Capitol Hill reporter Kevin Fry, and MS Now senior White House reporter Vaughn Hilliard is still here with me. Kevin, I'm going to start with you, and I want to start with what is happening with Max Miller. I'm going to go elsewhere first, but we're going to return to that because this is a story that has broken my heart and driven me a little bit crazy. Bring us up to speed first on where things start with Blanche and Senators Cornyn and Tillis, though. This dynamic between the president and some of the Republicans who he very recently burned.
Right. So, I mean, talks are ongoing, clearly, as you just read that quote that our colleague Jack Fitzpatrick got from Senator Cornyn this morning, that the conversations are constructive, but they're not, quite frankly, there yet. And these two alone are enough to deny him an ability to advance out of the Judiciary Committee. The timing on this is all a bit up in the air. If they are able to somehow come to a deal to put some constraints on that immunity deal involving IRS tax audits, and at the same time try to get language that eliminates that anti-weaponization fund, that 1776 fund that could go to, for example, January 6 rioters, then perhaps that we could see an advancement as early as next week. But keep in mind, the Senate's supposed to be gone next week. So procedurally, would we even see a vote on final confirmation? Again, this is some hypotheticals until after the August recess. That's where the timeline is looking like right now. The other thing to keep in mind in the mix of all of this is that it's not just Tillis and Cornyn that Blanche is having to grapple with here. There are other Republicans in the broader Senate that if his nomination were to advance to the floor, he would also have to offer some reassurances there. I'm looking at, for example, Senator Bill Cassidy, who just the other day was telling reporters that he's concerned about weaponization of the Justice Department. He wants reassurances, and he is in the listening and learning mode, as he told reporters.
सच बताएं कितने दिन में फर्क महसूस होने लगता है कि वजन कम हो रहा है.
You know, Vaughn, the president posted on Truth Social, as the president is wont to do. But this one was a long rant about John Cornyn, and also once again sort of paints the people who were supposed to benefit from this anti-weaponization fund, these American patriots, as he calls them, as though they are victims, of course, of the Biden administration's actions. Does the president realize that this might not help him with Cornyn? Is this the right strategy to take, I guess, if you're trying to get that senator back into the fold right now?
You've got to realize it now. But this is how the president has operated in politics for 10 years. And I think that's the part that we have to understand. For Donald Trump, it's so often, most of the time, about power. And he has effectively been able to make the Republican Party in his image over the last 10 years by, if you walk out of line, I'm going to blast you, I'm going to primary you, and I'm going to see that you are no longer serving in public office. And most of the time it has worked. Jeff Flake, Bob Corker, Liz Cheney, Tom Rice, Adam Kinzinger.
Oh, you have that list ready.
That list is really long. And it's usually worked for him. But here at this moment, in July of 2026, right, doing that inside of your party, what's the purpose? You already have majorities in the Senate and the House, narrow majorities. And what ultimately happened as a result is he isn't going to necessarily have Ken Paxton next month or later this fall. He may not even get him next year if Tallarico pulls off a victory. And so almost he played too heavy of a hand here. And now this is a moment that John Cornyn, when he was asked yesterday whether he's a little bit more independent because he lost his primary, he said, well, you've taken notice. which suggests from him that he is finally taking action, perhaps that he's thought he should have taken in the past. Because as Kevin knows from walking those hallways, dating back to 2017, I've been up there every once in a while, and Cornyn's not the guy that you go to thinking you're going to get a quote. So the fact that Jack Fitzpatrick, our colleague, just got a quote on Capitol Hill just shows that there's another senator, not named Susan Collins or Lisa Murkowski, that are willing to provide some counter to Donald Trump right now.
With the future of the Justice Department on the line, let's bring in MS Now senior White House reporter Vaughn Hilliard, MS Now senior national security reporter David Rode, and our legal analyst, former U.S. Attorney Joyce Vance. I just want to say, both gentlemen on set with me are working and reporting as we're having this conversation. So please bring that to us as you have it. But this seems like an interesting tactic on the part of the president.
This is a heck of a moment here in which the president of the United States has two men seemingly serving in the same position. And Bill Pulte, his acting director of national intelligence, and Jay Clayton, his now confirmed director of national intelligence, who has not been sworn in. It's now been almost a week. And I'm just told here in the last few seconds that, in fact, Bill Pulte is still the acting director of national intelligence. This is according to a White House official. And that Jay Clayton, even though he is in the room at this cabinet meeting, he has not been sworn in, but he will be sworn in, quote, soon. What does soon mean? That's not exactly clear. But the president clearly still turning to Bill Pulte, who is time and again over the course of the last year and a half premised the president to provide him material on an array of fronts that the president wants delivered. And so the question here is...
There are a lot of questions here.
The question here in my mind, and I'll let it go from there, is the fact that who is telling him cyber attack or apparent Iran cyber attack on U.S. water facilities? And is he just sitting there what Bill Pulte has access to and what Bill Pulte is telling the president? And just how much does it run contrary to what U.S. intel actually has in terms of documents that are classified?
Do you have a sense, and if you do, can you sort of catch me up on this, which is ordinarily, if someone were confirmed as DNI, how quickly before it is that they are sworn in and before they start receiving briefs like the one Vaughn just detailed?
Immediately. Our Deputy Bureau Chief, Kate Farrell, that's a name checking this morning, had people on our desk look. Every other Trump cabinet member who was confirmed in the second term took office within a day. So it's just puzzling about why Jay Clayton wouldn't take office. And I think, I'm not sure, Vaughn, and we're all being open and honest here, he's the acting U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. I think he already has some kind of security clearance. They deal with a lot of cases there that involve intelligence information. So I'm just baffled. Why? Again, there is according to a separate source I spoke to earlier, Iran is likely behind the attack on dozens of water systems in the state of Minnesota. We are at war with Iran, and we were talking about the director of national intelligence. Why isn't Senate-confirmed Jay Clayton in that job right now dealing with a cyber attack on the United States? Bill Pulte is 38 years old. He's the head of the top federal mortgage agency in the government, and he has no experience in intelligence whatsoever. He has, pleased the president by helping him do a speech about, the possible election breaches, which there's no proof of any kind back in 2020. So here we are facing a national security crisis. You have two men sitting there. The less experienced one is the acting director.
All right, let's put a pin in what is happening with the DNI because I'm going to have our producers listen in. Currently, Scott Bessent is speaking. I want to talk, though, about what is happening with another acting head, the acting attorney general. Explain to me the president's logic of blowing up on Cornyn on the heels of having Cornyn and Blanche meet.
The president wants the $1.7 billion slush fund and clearly wants the legal immunity for his family and himself from IRS tax audits. There's nothing else that can explain that. And the senators can try to give, the president the benefit of the doubt by pinpointing it on a legal advisor. But the legal advisors know who they're working for. There's one guy, Boris Epshteyn, who has been with the president since 2015. He's sort of his main legal wrangler. He was somebody in 2023, 2024 that folks maybe saw. He was the one who was essentially helping pick who his legal counsel would be. to help him defend himself against all those multiple of indictments. He's the one that has been behind the lawsuits that have been filed against news organizations on behalf of the president. And so this is not just some legal outside advisor. But in terms of blowing up at John Cornyn and Tom Tillis, this is more power, or I should say, these two men have always had this power, but they have chosen for the purposes of trying to push forward their own agendas up on Capitol Hill legislatively to try to placate the president. And now this is